Alright then, so hello everyone, welcome back to Dynamic Racing Leagues here on YouTube. Commentator NS Okio here once again, bringing action to you live from the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Just finished up doing a race actually on half the race gone on this particular circuit, so that was plenty of fun. Gonna see some more action here today with of course the DRL GT Championship, the 8th round of the season, the second to last round of the season as well, so we are coming to a close of the championship. Things are certainly looking interesting in the standings and such. Glad to be broadcasting it once again. Thanks again to everyone who has decided to tune into this. Qualifying should be starting shortly. Again, we've got a fantastic and diverse grid of competitors. Here you see Nilsman of Scuderia Nuke Shoddy going sideways through turn 1, a bit wide on exit. Of course, the Scuderia has a chance to wrap up the team's championship with this particular round. Been strong all through the season as qualifying does get underway, as it's going to be Brandon of the Hypersport TF Aston Martin squad being the first car out on circuit. Here he goes. I'm going to keep all of the data and stuff up for qualifying, have it removed for the race. So just on that outlap now. Again, Brandon has been looking a lot stronger in the GT Championship than he ever really did in Super Formula, so gonna be interesting to see how he does here at the Red Bull Ring. King of Torque here once again, of course. New helmet design, no longer copying a certain Leclerc. Plenty of weaving going off throughout the field, pretty much just getting the tyres up to temperature, those racing softs of course. So good to see that King is back racing for Runners Motorsport. Sailor here for Team Black Diamond. Good to see them back, of course, in that Audi R8. Should be a decent car for this kind of circuit. It can favour mid-engine cars. It's quite balanced, to be fair, as King of Torque gets out of the way. Wyber serving a little bit of a penalty, it seems. They're the other Scuderia Nuke Shoddy car. So again, having two cars showing up to pretty much every race is what has made the team very solidly cemented at the top of the team standings at the moment. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, I believe it is Dynamic Carbon, this guy, for of course Dynamic Esports, who is still at the top of the table looking very strong indeed. Could wrap up the Drivers' Championship here today as well. Going over the various numbers and charts as soon as we hit the break period, but these guys are currently going on their laps. Carbon thought about going down the inside there. Looks like King of Torque has binned it into the wall. And they've reset to the pits, have they? So Brandon still making their way around Sector 2 at the moment. There's Ayrton Spanner, the Welshman. Of course, we know how fast he can be in pretty much any car. We saw him in Super Formula, of course. He's been very strong here as well. Should be putting on a very strong showing here. No pressure, of course. As Brandon is about to come across the line for the first time. What is their time going to be? It's going to be a 1:30.369. Can Sailor better that? They're purple at the moment, and it looks like they can. That's a 1:29.6. So nearly 7/10 faster at this point. Here we see Wyber. Looks like they're a little bit off the pace at the moment. Nils looked like they were purple for a little bit. Will they manage to get it? They go second fastest with a 129.866. Dynamic Carbon hasn't really set a representative time with a 142.6, but they will have the slipstream from Nils, but they could also be held up by them as they make their way up the hill, up towards what I refer to as turn 2. I know it's very much up for debate. Ayrton Spencer going fastest of anybody with a 128.849. And that is blistering pace once again from the Welshman. That's 8/10 faster than their good friend and sort of A Team B teammate Sailor. And Purple again, they go in Sector 1, nearly 2/10 up in that sector alone. Nils currently the closest on track to them. It looks like they are Purple in Sector 2. The middle sector is where the Ferrari and the mid-engine cars should have a bit of an advantage. It's going to be interesting to know what everyone does. Brandon's still currently third. Nils making their way. Oh, they run a little bit wide. Oh, a little bit of a tank stopper as well. That's going to give them a penalty, and they can't improve on that occasion. Dynamic Carbon does set a time, but it is still 5th fastest for the Irishman. So needs to get himself into gear now that he's out of the slipstream of Nils, also out of the dirty air, of course. And he has actually gone personal best in Sector 1 because of that. Here you see Ayrton Spencer making their way around. Again, they set a new fastest lap again, which is fantastic to see. A 128.593, and Purple again in Sector 1. Ayrton Spencer is looking very, very strong so far, setting themselves up nicely. Although they have just gone into the pause menu, so that would eliminate this particular lap. Let's just see. Brandon, they had a penalty, but that's still an improvement for them. King of Torque, I believe they're not set a representative time just yet. Carbon exits. Wybear, not quite an improvement, but very consistent times on lap 3 and 4 for the Indonesian. That's something to take away from that. Sailor now actually down in 3rd, so Wybear's time enough for 2nd at this stage. So the Audi and the 2 Ferraris are very close together at the moment, with Ayrton Spencer leading them off. There goes Wybear, as Sailor is going very, very slow here, perhaps just trying to find some clear air. Not an improvement on that occasion for Spencer. We expected that after they paused. We're about halfway through the qualifying session here, as Wybear goes way too deep into the infield section, right into the gravel. Gonna have to be careful on the rejoin. Looks like he's clear, and indeed gets going again. Here we see King of Torque. What can they do? It looks like a more representative time from them. It is a 129.152. Good stuff to see from King. Still 5/10 off pace of Spencer. Wybear across the line, not quite an improvement. Sailor about to come round. It looks like Nils actually goes 2nd fastest. Not an improvement there for Sailor, but Nils with a 129.0. That is enough to take 2nd ahead of King at this stage. So they're certainly looking strong at the moment. no one quite up there with Spanner as of yet. Spanner still with around a 1 second gap as they do a 128.0, and they're spinning out on the grass. They picked up rear aero damage. Shame we can't quite pick that up on the replay, but again, the fact they keep on improving drastically as well. Perhaps it will have something to do with the success ballast, but I'll have to double check that as soon as qualifying finishes. They seem to let, I believe that's Carbon, go through. Yep, Carbon with a 0.5 second penalty on this lap, probably from turn 1. They served that penalty. And Carbon currently the slowest of them all, so the championship leader not doing so well here. He needs to find a bit more pace if he's going to take this title fight all the way in this particular race, rather than let it go to finale next time out. Whitebear again hasn't quite been able to improve on that 129.496 for a little bit. Nils still, well, their King goes green in Sector 1 it seems. He's going through Sector 2 at the moment. Someone has gone off meanwhile, and that is Dynamic Carbon. So that's not a good sign for the Irishman, car 24. As we are into the final third of qualifying, Nils goes top of the time, so that's only because Ayrton Spanner has exited to the garage, more than likely just to get that rear aero damage fixed. The times between Nils and King are less than a tenth at the moment, so that could be very close. King couldn't quite improve on that occasion, seeing that they picked up a bit of a penalty. They'll be doing their best now as they make their way up the hill. Try and close down that gap, perhaps get on top again, we'll have to see. Whitebear, interesting tactics between these guys, seeming to be almost slipstream buddies for the moment. Interesting stuff. Of course, those are the benefits of having teammates. I believe Ferrari did something similar at Italian Grand Prix a while ago. So interesting to see that in play. As King gets a massive slide on, that's not going to help their chances. Just out of turn 3, car just wanting to slide out, sending him to the inside. And Spanner just letting cars go through. Absolutely insane that he's nearly a second faster than anyone else at this point. Sailor, they are on an outlap at the moment. Brandon, let's check in on them. They've been setting some laps and haven't really been improving as of recent. They are currently the bottom of the pile, with Carbon going slightly faster than them by a tenth and a half. So Brandon will need to be pushing that little bit extra more just to try and get himself up there. There's yellow flags. I'm not quite sure who that was. Was that Sailor? No, it wasn't. It must have been Spanner. Yep, it was Ayrton Spanner, just parked on the inside, letting some cars go. So as we come into the final part of the session, some of these guys, now they've ran their fuel down a little bit, going to try and put on some fresh tyres and maximise that advantage. 2 minutes to go in the session. That should just about work out for Nils. So good strategy by them, being given blue flags as a car on a lap approaches. King of Torque, I believe, also made a pit stop, so same strategy for them. And they have now inherited the slipstream buddy of Whitebear. The last race I did note that King doesn't seem to get on particularly well with the Mercedes. Does seem to slide on him a fair bit more than he would like, so perhaps the Grip Runners Motorsport team haven't quite managed to get on top of the setup yet, because we've seen him still with a few twitches here and there. Have to see if he can get on top of that for the race. Sailor, they're making their way through Sector 3 at the moment. Second to last corner, nice, doesn't run too wide there. And across the line they're about to come, it looks like not quite an improvement, but very, very close, less than a tenth in it. So I get ready to call the flag. Nils in the pits again, so Nils must have picked up damage or something. Yep, Nils picked up damage. Getting ready with the call. There it is, the flag is out. Who's going to be the first across the line? Who is it? It would be Dynamic Carbon, and he makes the most of that, improving his time. Goes up to 5th fastest. As N Spencer has parked up, Nils gets out of the pits, will not be able to set another lap. King and Wyber are currently together on circuit. Let's see what they can do. Wyber looks like they're on for a solid time, not quite solid enough. King of Torque can't quite improve. Sailor would seem to be the last car on a lap at the moment. Oh, bit sideways there in the R8. Looks to be a good time, and indeed is their personal best according to that, but also not at the same time. Weird graphics and such, so it isn't an improvement for Sailor in the end. And that concludes qualifying. So Ayrton Spencer with a very healthy margin of nearly an entire second over the rest of the field. Nils puts his car on second with a very narrow margin there. King of Torque third. Sailor fourth. I just need to double check because of carbon and such. Yep, so it's Sailor fourth. Carbon will be lining up 5th, just ahead of Wyber. You can see 1/100th of a second separating those two. So Wyber will be in 6th and Brandon in 7th, but by no means that far off of the rest of the field. 2nd through 7th are actually extremely close at the moment. It just seems to be Ayrton Spencer with a fair bit of an advantage over everyone else. As we now enter the break period, where I shall go through the standings. So bear with me for a second. At the moment it is Dynamic Carbon, as we mentioned, in the driver's standings on 104 points, currently leading them off. King of Torque, their closest challenger, on 76 points, and Sailor third with 66 points. Nils only a 4th at the moment, but with their racing number in terms of points with 62. Wyber also 4th with 62 points, so tying with their teammate at the moment. Then we have Ayrton Spencer on 54 points. They are down in 6th. Tetsu Cobra, they are on 30 points in 7th. Brandon is on 26 points in 8th. Rhino 21 points in 9th. John Wondering 18 points in 10th. And Houdini 12 points in 11th. And Roland, who we haven't seen for quite a while, on 8 points. They are down in 12th on the drivers' standings. And with the team standings, it is Scuderia Nuke Shoddy on 128 points. They are currently leading that, with Dynamic Esports, the closest challenger, on 104 points, but also Team Black Diamond Esports tied for second with them, also on 104 points, so extremely close stuff as we come towards the final part of the season. Grip Runners Motorsport, with just one car, don't forget, 76 points for them with King of Talk. Scuderia Diamante Nero, as it has been listed as, that would be Team Black Diamond, the team of Ed Spenner, I believe, the BMW. They're on 54 points in 5th in the standings. Foxcatcher Racing, the McLarens, the bright white McLarens, the iPhone cases, they are on 39 points in 6th. Hyper Racing TF, they're on 34 points, so not that far off of Foxcatcher, and Brandon will be hoping to see if he can overtake them today with their lack of presence. They're currently 7th at the moment though in the standings. Checkered Flag Motorsports, again we haven't seen them in a while, they're on 30 points. And Audi Sport Team RL, again another team that we haven't seen for a little while, they're on 6 points. And that concludes the standings update. As for Success Ballast, let's quickly see what it says about that. So Nils is currently running 1% ballast, I believe. That to be Carbon, I think, is... It'd be useful if I actually told you the percentages added on, but 107% total for Carbon, that's 1391 kilograms. King of Torque on 103% ballast for them in the Mercedes, that's 1364 kilograms. Brandon on 107% weight, which is 1337 or leet ballast. Sailor, they're on 113%, so that's quite hefty, that's 1384 kilograms. And Ed Spenner, they are on a little bit of ballast, that's on 105% weight, which is 1365 kilograms. And with all of the technical data out of the way, we await the start of the race, which should be in just a few minutes, but as per usual it probably isn't. Thanks again to all the viewers that are tuning in throughout the multiverse here today to the Dynamic Racing League stream here on YouTube. Hello to Swablu in the chat. Number one Radish fan. I have had plenty of number one fans, but right now you are probably it, to be fair. You're the only one in chat at the moment, which is fair enough. Big up the lads in green. Big up Jack Wilkinson on the cam. Big up the guy, the marshal over there waving that yellow flag, probably getting arm ache. You see King of Torque, the closest challenger to our Drivers' Championship leader, Dynamic Carbon. Hello to Skull TVD in the chat. Nice to see you tag along, TBD. Possibly a hint to Team Black Diamond? My only guess. As we're seeing some fantastic donuts here from Brandon, of course, ex-commentator. Leaving me alone in the booth yet again. Oh, into the barrier he goes. Oh, there goes Sailor as well. So again, the race is scheduled to start in approximately 2 minutes. We should be... Oh, for quite a good one. Red Bull Ring is quite well known for giving some fantastic racing, potentially because of the relatively simple layout with only around 9 corners, I believe. Hold on, let me count. Yeah, 8, 9, something around that. I think it's officially listed as 9, but whatever. Those that sail up making their way up to the top of the hill. Are they going to ram into someone? Here we are on board with them. Nope, they are just getting a bit of practice in with the braking zones of turn 2, and why not? It is certainly a very tricky one to get right. Very uphill, so you can brake quite late, later than you would on a flat equivalent. But still, the gradient and especially the inside curve on turn 2, very difficult, very easy to mess up. And here you see, yet again, Ayrton Spanner sliding around. Fantastic skids there, couldn't quite hold on to it as he caught the marbles. As Nils also just goes into the wall for no reason. The marshal can't make up his mind as to whether the flag goes out or goes in or what. In, out, shake the flag all about, hokey cokey, whatever, I don't know anymore. So it is officially around the time that we should be getting things underway, but as per usual, we are having some kind of delays for some particular reason, and it isn't because King of Torque hasn't showed up yet, which is the normal reason, because he's right here. Fantastic slides again from the likes of Paul Sutter and Spanner again. Fantastic skids all round. Is King gonna try and show us a bit of his drifting skills? No, he's going to nearly understeer into the gravel. Alright then. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Unbelievable scenes, as that is a 540 from Ayrton Spanner. If this was Robot Wars, you'd certainly get all of the style points. But it isn't. So tough. Nils just at the spot where I think Valtteri Bottas had to park up his car on one occasion, so for some reason he's doing the same. We're getting final confirmations from the drivers as to whether they are ready to start, so hopefully not too long to go now, as for some reason my phone has decided to get some random notice up about I can't even speak, staying safe on live streams. I don't know what I clicked to bring that up, but I think we're back now. They're great banter. It really, really is. There's just one thing that I think I forgot to do, which is turn off notifications. There. Professionals at work yet again. How I keep getting these jobs, I have no idea. But yep, notifications now off. Again, not too long to go now. If you have any fan favorites of our drivers, be sure to say them in chat. Who are you rooting for in not just the race today, but also the potential championship fight that we have going on? It could be settled with this race. I believe it would be the first time in DRL history that a drivers' championship could be finished with an extra race to go. I might be wrong on that. As the final has indeed started, we're about to get things underway. again, thanks to all those joining us here, live at the Red Bull Ring here in Austria, for round 8 of the DRL GT Championship. On pole, as you can see, Eden Spenner in that BMW M6. Lining up alongside will be Nilsman in the Ferrari 458, King of Torque in the Mercedes in 3rd, Sailor in the Audi R8 in 4th. 4 different manufacturers make up the top 4. It's Carbon in 5th, Wybear 6th, and Brandon will be starting from 7th. Cars making their way around the final corner. It's going to be a rolling start here, 40 laps to go, and are about to get underway here at the Red Bull Ring, and it is green, 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 and the cars are off. Pretty much single file, as the rolling start would indicate. Carbon doing a little bit of slipstream braking towards the back of the pack. It seems the end Spanner pretty much unchallenged at the moment, as I think Wybear went a little bit wide going through there. Brandon on the attack on Carbon already, so he's managed to get to the outside. And look at this also, King of Torque battling with Nils. Looks like Brandon manages to take 5th, as what on earth is this? King of Torque going completely wide. We need to get a replay of that as soon as things calm down a little bit. It looks also like Sailor might be wanting to have a bit of a go down the inside into turn 3. Indeed they do so. A little bit of onion barges, not too many though. Still side by side as they make their way to the infield section. It looks like King will just about manage to hold on to that, or will they? Because Sailor, oh, contact again. Oh, and again between the two of them. And Sailor just about manages to get their way through. Now, will Brandon be able to capitalise because of King being pushed around a bit? Maybe having not as good of an exit as they would have liked. Brandon's going full send down the inside. Runs King off the circuit, it would seem, a little bit. King going wide over the exit bumps. And now Carbon all over the back of them again. So not the kind of start that King of Torque was wanting. Carbon looking to go down the inside now. Can't quite get it done. Just gonna check out whatever happened to King before. It was just a case of them running very wide and deep going up towards turn 2. Will they be able to do a little bit of a better job here? They're trying to go around the outside of Brandon, trying to get that position back. And it's still side by side. And they're leaning on each other, making their way up towards turn 3. This is allowing the cars ahead to escape a little bit. Brandon's still at the inside. Oh, and that's Wybear going completely off the circuit. We need to quickly see what happened to him. So what was it that caused this? Was it just a case of outbraking himself? It would seem to be. Very lucky he didn't run into the back of Carbon with that. Off into the gravel he goes nevertheless. King of Torque still can't quite find their way past Brandon. Yeah, sorry to Swablu in the chat, rooting for Wybear. Bit of a mistake made by him at this point, but still a lot of race to go. And Spanner crosses the line for the first time. If anything, it looks like Brandon's starting to get away from King. Ballast might be playing his part with this. Of course, King and Carbon should be on some of the most ballast, with it being the two at the top of the championship standings. You can see him going up the hill. Carbon in the rear wing cam just about, as there seemed to be a little bit of contact up ahead that's allowing King to capitalise on that. We need to get a replay on that. We will do shortly, just when things have calmed down again a little bit. Brandon looking to try and defend their position. King aggressive to the outside line. Gonna try and stay alongside Brandon as they make their way up towards the infield section. Can't quite manage it on this occasion, but right up there. Oh, Brandon's lagging a fair bit here. That's quite concerning. Oh, this is really concerning actually. But I'm gonna just quickly see what on earth happened to Sailor. Did they just run wide? Oh, seemed like it was just a bit of a dive bomb from Brandon that seemed to get it done. Brandon, good on them for slowing down and not trying to take the position again after that. King of Torque right on the back of Brandon still as they make their way up through turn 1. In other news, you can barely see him at this point, but Ed Spanner has pretty much just disappeared up the road, as has Nils. Brandon being notified that he is indeed lagging. I'm not sure if that's showing on everyone's screen, but certainly mine. Carbon, despite notifying him, still managing to stay on the back of the pack. Bear, there you see him down in 7th at the moment. Sailor at the head of this 4-car group at the moment, with Nils just up the road again. This is really playing into Nils's hands here. Certainly playing into Spenner's as well, as a very aggressive move to the inside from Sailor, really trying to break the slipstream. The Aston Martin already really strong in the straights. He's thinking, doesn't need another advantage. Here we are with a wang cam, as Half the Race Gone would say. I'm probably going to get me a copyright strike there. You see, moving back to the racing line. Just about missing the apex, so perhaps a bit of pressure to them. King under a lot more pressure, getting it majorly wrong on exit. And now look, that's allowed Carbon to pull up alongside, so King having to go defensive on the insideline.com. Carbon just about manages to get it around the outside. No, they can't. They outbrake themselves. And Brandon has managed to get up to 3rd as well. Let's see this one from Brandon. Round the outside, was it? Clean as you like. Look at that from Brandon. Fantastic stuff. As someone's had a little bit of an off, I fear that might be Carbon. Not picked up damage, but it looks like he has had a bit of a moment. Gonna quickly see what it was. Was it just on exit here? Just spun the car to the inside, does clip the guardrail. Very lucky to get away without damage on that occasion. But now he has dropped off back, King of Torque. And this could potentially put his championship at jeopardy, or in jeopardy rather, again, can't speak. Brandon with a 0.5 second penalty, that's going to be for track extending or corner cutting. Now, if they were to finish as they are, Carbon would still take the championship. King needs to finish a bit higher than where he is at the moment. Serving that penalty, I think both of them were, as the unghosting actually caught them out a little bit. Was there damage picked up by that? It would seem not. King still with a little bit of penalty to serve as they make their way down towards turn 3. What is Brandon doing? Is he going to send it? Nope, not quite. Making their way up towards the infield section again. This group still close together. There you see race leader N Spanner 4.7 seconds up the road from second place Nilsman. Not to jinx poor Nils here, but every time he's been in second he seems to have disconnected mid-race, which is never a good thing, especially of course for the team and the championship. But as a driver, of course, you don't want that uncertainty, as there's again a little bit of contact between King and Brandon. Brandon picking up another 0.5 second penalty for track extending. Again, the lag might be playing its part here. It seems to have calmed down a bit on my end. Again, very lucky that neither of these guys have damage. And yes, I completely agree with that, Swablo. That's the last thing I want as team manager. Now look at this. 3 cars pretty much as one as they make their way up towards turn 3, or down towards turn 3 I should say. Downhill braking zone. Difficult one to judge. And again, contact between Brandon and King. King getting a better exit. Brandon defending the racing line, so King couldn't quite get a run on him, hence the contact. As someone has just gone off, I'm not sure who that was. That was race leader and Spenner who's gone off. What on earth has happened to him? So he's making his way through and he just seemed to lose the car. Right into the gravel trap he goes. Had to rejoin in a safe manner, of course, but that's dropped him down to second place. Nils with a 5.1 second lead because of that. Spenner with a 0.5 second penalty. On top of that, running wide at turn 1. He's fallen into the clutches of this battle, which is really not what he wanted. So it turns out there's some good fortune for Nils this race. As look at this, side by side between Brandon and King. King having a go on the very outside, seems to get the position from doing so. He'd probably have to give that back. I'll have to check that on the replay. Although King was already ahead. Although, yeah, that's an interesting one to call. Personally, I would say that Brandon would have to take the position back from that. Brandon seemed to have slowed down. Oh, contact between Brandon and Carbon. What on earth has been going on now? So it just seems that he's been going slow. He hasn't picked up damage or anything. I don't know. He's paused momentarily, I think, and as he unpaused right into the path of Carbon. Certainly scary times for the Irishman, but he's up to 5th. Meanwhile, a bit further up, it would seem that Sailor is managing to stick with Spenner at this point. And the gap between Spenner and Nils is around the same, 5.5 seconds. So Nils could be on for a very solid race here. There you can see the tyre wear on the Ferrari. Nowhere near as bad as it used to be, if you recall. It's fantastic news for Nils at the moment, as he's just about a lap or so away from completing a quarter race distance. It seems like Spenner's starting to get a bit of a gap over their A/B teammate. Seems like the BMW's aerodynamics again coming into effect through this middle sector, as Sailor runs a little bit wide, just about clipping the gravel, it would seem. A little bit of understeer from the car of King of Torque, I just noted. But he's still running 4th and still maybe trying to close down that gap to the Audi up ahead. Carbon, meanwhile, still will have Brandon in their slipstream at the moment. Yes, aerodynamics. Although I'm not sure what the situation actually is in terms of Ed Spenner's hairstyle, but perhaps he has styled it in the shape of a rear wing or a front splitter. Who knows? Who knows? Well, he knows, but I don't. And actually, all the squabbling, they can actually see Wybear. Look at the kind of ground that he's been managing to make up. Last lap was a 129.3. He's really closing up to the back of these guys after his early mistake on lap 1. So, good to see that he's certainly managed to stick with it and be persistent, managing to claw his way back up to the pack. And it is certainly far from over, with around 3/4 of the race to go. Race leader Nils, the gap has come down quite drastically, as Spanner has been setting some blistering pace as of recent. The gap 4 seconds, just over that, just under now, you can really see. Although Spanner has picked up a penalty from that, so perhaps he is pushing a little bit too much for the game's liking. That's interesting, Swabbler. You should probably send that to me on Discord or something as a pic. Just see if the rumours are true. That would be rather amusing, but yep. Spanner really closing down on Nils. Spanner, what was his last lap? Purple again. It was a 129.1, so that's a fair bit off his fastest lap, a 128.4. But nevertheless, certainly pushing it to the limit. Remember, he was around a second faster than anyone else, including Nils, in qualifying, so this kind of pace we should pretty much be expecting from Spanner. King of Torque closing the gap down to Sailor as well. He's starting to find his groove a little bit more. As there's been an off, and I think that is Brandon. Indeed it is. What has happened to Brandon? Gonna go on board with him as he makes his way through the infield section just past the sector 3 marker. He just runs wide onto the gravel and it spits him out, and that is very close to the racing line. He's on the exit curb. Lucky that he ghosted, and there were no cars around as well, so that's now dropped Brandon off the back of the pack. He's now 8 seconds down, or 8.7 seconds down on Wybear at the moment, so he's got a fair bit of work to do. They can see the gap between Nils and Spanner, just around 3 seconds at the moment. It's closing down again, and also the gap between King and Sailor is extremely close now. King's certainly within the slipstream range. Setting personal best through sector 2. I'm gonna go on board with King of Torque in his Mercedes. His last lap was a 129.484. Making his way through the second to last corner. Oh, bit of understeer. Can't quite get on the power efficiently from that, or risk getting a penalty. And again, understeer in the Mercedes seems to be a little bit of a theme, and that's a 1 second penalty, probably for both instances. The running wide the first time and the second time adding up 0.5 seconds each. That's how the algorithm works, I'm afraid, King. Nevertheless, he just needs to stick in the slipstream and keep on going. He should be able to get rid of some of the penalty in the braking zone here. Yep, look at that, 6/10 gone, just like that. The gap seems to have stabilised around 3 seconds between Spanner and Nils, so it's moving more into the tyre situation. It would seem to be very, very even between the two of them at this stage. Okay, good to see that the Ferrari isn't plagued with the tyre wear issues that it has had in the past. And the gap, as soon as I mentioned it was stabilising, has now come down by around 6/10. Fantastic. Although Spanner again with a 0.5 second penalty. A lot of people picking up penalties through the second to last on the final corner. It's a bit of a running theme here. King of Torque ahead of Sailor. So he's managed to get ahead. He's still got a bit of a penalty to serve. I'm just going to quickly see if I could catch it. No, my apologies. Just missed out on that one. And making their way up to turn 2 again though. Sailor with the slipstream should be having a bit of an advantage. Of course, King with that penalty to serve as well. Now charging their way up over the crest and down towards turn 3. Highest penalty wins. No, it's like golf, it's the lowest number that wins, unfortunately. Oh, bit of a twitch. Bit of a slide from King of Torque. We're gonna go rear wing cam if we can. Yep, here we are. Again, the rear wing cam on this particular car, not the best design, because any car following remotely close gets obstructed by the rear wing. Cheers Mercedes. Or cheers Polyphony, I suppose I should say. Again, you can actually see Sailor able to be a lot more confident on the curbs, which is surprising given the Audi R8 in the past. Again, physics changes have helped it. Carbon, they also see in the background in that BMW M6 lurking. There he's got a little bit of a cracked headlight at the moment, but he's still going on. Currently 5th. A good job. Would be hoping to get a bit higher up the order by the end of this. That is purple in sector 1. Wyber would seem to have either paused or picked up a bit of a penalty or something. That was a bit odd. But they've dropped back from Carbon after being quite close to them for a little bit earlier on in this race. As Brandon is still around 11 seconds or so back from Wyber. He's on the grass a bit. Has he picked up damage? No, he hasn't. As that is a massive slide from Sailor on the exit of the infield section. So many cars seem to be getting it wrong there. Will Carbon be able to take advantage of this as well? Look at this from Carbon. He's going to try it. No, not quite. Oh, but Sailor runs very wide, and that's allowing Carbon down the inside. Gets it done with ease on that occasion. Sailor seems to have lost it again and into the pit wall. And they've picked up front aero damage from there. At the part of the circuit that is the absolute worst for this sort of thing. You can literally see the pit entry. Just having to wait for a safe rejoin. Does so. Really unfortunate stuff to see. Here it is on replay. What happened to Sailor? So just chasing down King of Torque. What seemed to go wrong? Was it just a case of running into the gravel again? Yep. And then the curb. Bit back onto the grass. The transition with the tarmac. Seemed to ruin their momentum. Carbon. There you see him. Try it. They're just running wide again. And there's the oversteer, just trying to get the power on exit to try and get Carbon back. Unfortunate stuff for Sailor. That has put them back with Brandon at this stage. And with that front aero damage as well. Oh, again, more of a slide from Sailor. It's really not going to help them here. Front of that car looking very battered and bruised. we should be approaching the pit window relatively soon, so it won't be too long that Sailor would have to particularly wait if he's going to have to make a pit stop, which I assume he will have to, especially with the damage. Nils and Ed Spanner, they have actually swapped positions, so the battle for the lead, it would seem that it was lost at turn 1. So my apologies for missing that. There's so much going up already, but Nils has unfortunately lost out. They haven't picked up damage, it's just a case of Ed and Spanner showing their pace yet again. Nils will have to do their best to try and keep with him. Last lap was a 1 minute 30.507. Just trying to avoid the marbles they see on the outer line. Can cause understeer. As Brandon has left the lobby from something and someone's spun around. Is that Sailor? It is. I mean, gonna see what happened here. So Brandon just seemed to slow down as well according to that on the map. But what happened to Sailor? It just, the R8 just runs wide, and then of course the banking of the rejoin really didn't help into the barrier again. He really needs to just get that car to the pits now. It's picked up suspension damage on top of the aero he had before. I'm surprised he actually risked staying out with the aero damage, because if he came in he might not have had that happen to him. Oh, thanks for reporting that to me, It's Fat. Brandon apparently had an application error, so his game crashed at the wrong moment. So unfortunate again, and now Sailor does indeed have to go into the pits, probably regretting not making a pit stop a lap earlier before the incident happened. We have some Fs in chat for both Sailor and Brandon to pay our respects. And damage repaired. Making his way out onto the second straight on the run up to turn 2. Here you see Ed Spanner on the start-finish straight, so you can really see the kind of time that Sailor has lost, unfortunately. Spanner really gapped Nils at this point. We are just about approaching the half race distance marker, because I want to avoid being sued by Dirt and DK. Purple again, sector 1. See that quite often here. Sector 1 essentially consisting of turn 1 and a long straight. So cars with a straight line advantage tend to do well here, which seems to be the BMW M6. King of Torque with a 0.4 second penalty. Need to be serving that as soon as possible, and also try their best to catch up to the back of Nils, because if they finish where they are, again Carbon would take the championship. It really needs to step things up at the moment. I believe if King finishes first, Carbon would need to finish third, and if King finishes second, Carbon needs to finish fifth, or something along those lines, if it is to go down to the season finale at Nürburgring. Running wide again, and Spanner through turn 1. Not seeming to get a bit of a penalty from that. That's an odd one. Let's go on board with this. I know this has been a bit of a dodgy case area on some occasions. Yep, that's off the circuit. And that is what Crazy John was talking to me about in the NES mod chat, about how this circuit does require a little bit of extra enforcement in certain areas, turn 1 being one of them. Nevertheless, the game has let Spanner get away with it on that occasion. Nils, 4.2 seconds down, 4.3 seconds down on Ed and Spanner at the moment. How's the tyre situation? It's probably starting to feel the effects of the wear by now. And Spanner, will they be coming into the pits? Yep, very standardized strategy here from Scuderia Diamante Nero, if I remember the name correctly. Into the pits they go. Nils gonna try a bit of an overcut. I'm not sure how well that's gonna work out for them. They're just wanting to be in the lead for a little bit longer. I suppose King of Torque going into the pits this lap, so they might be trying to get an undercut on Nils. Carbon, interestingly, staying out. That's a bit of an odd call, although their tyres looking a lot better than a lot of the other cars around them, to be fair. 0.5 second penalty for them. King of Torque making their way out of the pits. Looks like they're going to be quite close with the car of Y-Bear. Indeed, there is Y-Bear in the green, orange, blue, white, whatever other colours you can probably see on that Ferrari. And that Ferrari seem to have a very solid exit out of turn 2 as well. Ferrari versus Mercedes, again a rivalry we've seen on plenty of occasions. Gonna go on board here with Y-Bear, making their way up through the second sector in the infield section. Try their best to stick with King in that slipstream, although it's going to be really difficult on that worn rubber, as well as the front aero damage they have. I'm not sure when that happened. Nils into the pits meanwhile, as has Carbon, so it'll be very interesting to see what these guys rejoin. Spanner's already gone through the start finish line here, and on their way out goes Nils. Ferrari seems to have saved a little bit more fuel than the other cars, and Nils rejoins in second, so the undercut hasn't really worked out for King over Nils as they run wide through turn 2, or turn 1 rather. I can count. 0.5 second penalty for them, and Carbon couldn't quite get it to work either. Out the pits comes Y-Bear with around 47 seconds or so ahead of Sailor. That is probably a wrong gap, considering Sailor has yet to come across the line or reach pit exit. Oh, it's probably misreading something there. The gap is actually 22 seconds. And Spanner still charging along at the head of this race. His last lap was a 1 minute 27.3. That was his outlap. Very sketchy situation there from them as they get very close to the guardrail. Gonna go on board with them here just to see how close they actually got. Just seem to get it a little bit wrong here. Trying to get on the power while over the bumpy section right up close to the rail. That could have been a lot worse for them. Here comes the charging Ferrari of Nils. Look at this. Fantastic straight line speed up the hill from the bright green machine. Nearly 3/10 purple, in fact, as it would seem that... that was odd. It seemed some kind of position change or something occurred momentarily. Apparently not. The game has been tricking me. So Spencer still leads with just under half of the race left. Nils purple in sector 2, they're currently second. King of Torque third at this stage with a 5-second gap over their championship rival in the Drivers' Championship, Dynamic Carbon, who's in 4th. Wyber, the Indonesian, currently sits 5th at the moment. Will be trying their best to see if they can gain some ground up on the cars ahead, as well as keep Sailor at bay. Pun not intended. And here is Sailor. His last lap was 1:29.172. That really shows that they really did have the pace, and they certainly were in the scrap earlier on in the race. It just hasn't gone their way since they picked up the damage. They're lagging slightly. Again, that might just be a temporary thing. We saw it did go away eventually with Brandon, although Brandon himself also went away when his game had an error. Yes, Red Bull Ring is going to be under manual review, mainly because the game doesn't enforce certain areas enough, such as the exit of turn 1, which it might actually lead to having in-game penalties on as well as an extra check, just to make our load a fair bit easier. I'll probably have to speak with the moderators and stuff about that. But yeah, Red Bull Ring, I think is the round after Nürburgring, which is tomorrow. So of course, go over half the race gone after this stream, subscribe, and be sure to check that out when it comes up tomorrow. It's gonna be a good one. And Spencer still with a very, very strong lead at the moment. Just experimenting with some cameras here. Apologies, I was trying to search for that special new cockpit cam that there is. I'd probably need to look that up in my own time for what it is on the keyboard. Speaking of the keyboard, I have actually managed to find the one missing key that well, was missing on it for quite a while, which was F9, which does that, so that's useful. Still with a fair bit of the race to go then, we have Spencer still extending that gap over Nils, really showing his dominant pace at the moment. Nils with a 0.5 second penalty. Gonna have to do his best to try and manage the penalties he gets while also avoiding sliding. Nils, what are you doing? Yeah. These drivers, man. Here we are on board with Nils. That could have ended so much worse for him there. Really lucky escape with a gentle touch on the tyre barrier. Plenty of drama even when the cars aren't together. King of Torque has managed to get quite a bit closer after that mistake from Nils. 3 seconds the gap. He's certainly within visible range. They can just about see him, that speck of white in the distance. That's going to be encouraging King, that he can now see his target a lot clearer. Will certainly be motivating him to push on forwards again. Car 98, not 86, as it says from this angle. Making his way out of the infield section and heading up towards the final little section. And also Carbon, championship leader in the driver's standings. Still doing a really solid job at the moment. Again, he's right where he needs to be. It's King that needs to improve if he's going to take it down to the finale. So my phone just played up a little bit, sorry about that. Further back, Wyber in the other Scuderia Nuke shoddy car. Not running a fair bit wide, going through the second to last corner. Wide again at the last. It's probably going to be around a second worth of penalties. Yep, the two add up, and there you see it. So the algorithm doing its job. As much as I hate to see it penalising my own drivers, it's doing its job. Many people have complained about penalty system and stuff in the past. More to do with collisions, if I recall correctly. But at least with the track extending and cutting, it seems to be a-okay, at least for the most part. I think it's just certain circuits and certain corners that it has a little bit of an issue with, but nevertheless, things are going quite smoothly here at the Red Bull Ring. Game doing a good job, except for, of course, turn 1 running wide on occasion. Wyber just running a bit wide himself out turn 3, managing to gather it up, not go completely into the gravel trap. Current fastest lap of the race ends, spent with a 127.878. I can't quite remember his qualifying pace, but I think it's certainly up there. So, good stuff to see. Sailor, around 16 seconds back from Wyber, but if Wyber keeps on picking up these penalties as he's been doing, that gap will really start to crumble down. Although he is going to have to gain more than a second a lap if he is going to catch Wyber by the end of this one. AC Con Great, that fantastic V10 sound from the Audi R8, making its way through the hills of Austria Salzburg. Oh, that's a fair bit of chronic lag from Sailor, bit of a spike. It seems to be alright again now. .3 seconds and extending the gap between Spanner and Nils. Making his way under the Red Bull Mobile sign and up the hill again. Talked about that braking zone. You can brake very, very late going into it. Spanner doing so, hooks up the apex, dead on perfect, I would say. No track extending, no corner cutting, no nonsense, just solid lines from the Welshman. Nils still going at it as well. That screaming V8 in the Ferrari. Fantastic. Hearing it echo around the mountains. Fantastic camera work as well by none other than Jack Wilkinson himself here today. Managed to buy him a plane ticket from Blackpool. Yep, around 3.2 seconds between them and King. That seems to have stabilised after Nils had their moment. So, seems that Nils does have enough in the tank in order to just keep King at bay with the current setup of ballast and such. Ferrari has looked strong here, especially in this first sector, surprisingly, with the speed. Even though it's mid-engined, it is quite good on the straights. As the tyres are wearing out now. 3/4 of the race dealt with. Can't quite get those bubble sectors anymore. King of Torque suddenly in hot pursuit again. Gap extending though between them and Nils. Still going to be trying his absolute hardest. We know King has a tendency of wearing out his tyres a lot more than other drivers. Perhaps that's the case again. Let's see. These tyres are quite fresh still. If anything, he seems to be doing a bit better than the likes of Nils ahead of him. And around the same as Carbon behind him, so King seems to have just settled into a rhythm here. He's not really pushing that much at this stage. He's just going with it. Gap's come down a little bit as King, as soon as I mentioned that, has set a personal best lap of the race. That was a 1:28.616 by them. Nearly 8 tenths, or around 8 tenths actually, slower than the fastest from end Spanner. That shows the difference at the moment. Purple through, or green rather. I'm colorblind as well as have some kind of speech impediment and whatever, and yet they still get me to do this job. I have no idea why, but it's great. It's great banter, it really is. I've always wanted to say that on stream. Carbon, Gap 5.6. Oh, it looked like that was paused for a quick moment. Let's see if that was true. Oh no, they just picked up a bit of penalty and that's why they were ghosted, was it? Yeah, that would explain it. It's difficult to tell the difference between the two, especially when their gaps do increase a fair bit. Of course, the one giveaway sign is the hazard lights coming on, but again, difficult to see. .3 seconds to gap. As we are into the closing stages of this race, things have certainly been quiet for a little bit. I think it's starting to get back together again as we continue on, as Nils has hit some kind of an issue, has he? He's losing a lot of time to King. What's happened here? He seemed he had a bit of a moment going out of the first corner. Seemed probably a bit of oversteer, set him to the inside, and now things have really heated up. Again, commentary not really occurs in this sense because this has made things a lot more action-packed as the battle for second is on in these closing stages. Here we are, rear wing cam on the Ferrari. Certainly a lot better visibility than the one on the Merc. Making their way through the infield section. Not quite hitting that apex. Good on the exit though. The Ferrari just about managing to stay ahead at this point. I think the gap extended slightly. The Mercedes has been saving its tyres a fair bit more, it would seem, than Nils. And Nils has had his moments where he has cracked a little bit under the pressure. Nevertheless, he's got the track position at this stage and just needs to hold on for another 8 laps. Big ass, yes. But still, making their way up the hill again towards turn 2. No slipstream braking happening at the moment from Nils, so he's not feeling the pressure too much to the extent that he needs to be overly defensive. And now we're seeing it. Just going to the inside. Will probably be making his way to the outside again for the braking zone, yep. Here we go back to the Jack Wilkinson cameras. Now as these two scrap, they might bring Carbon into the equation as well. We'll have to see. Carbon currently 4th. It's not too far back from those guys. King of Torque's last lap a 129.0. Nils's last lap a 131.0. Of course, factoring that mistake, someone has span at the first corner. I think that might have been Sailor. Indeed it was. We're gonna have to quickly... What happened to Sailor here? There's lag, and then... he caught the curb, and the car just wasn't taking it. As King has managed to get up ahead of Nils. Will Nils be able to get a bit of a counter-attack? I think I've just about managed to get the Z key pressed in time so we can have a bit of replay on the first move. But Nils into the braking zone. Both of those guys ghosted as they're serving their penalties, and King just about stays ahead of that one. Here's the move then. It just seemed like King had a bit of a better exit going onto the straight out of the final corner, and down the inside they went. Now will Nils be able to make a bit of a counter attack here? We'll have to see. The tyre wear seems about even between the two of them, as two cars are going into the pits here. That's Ayrton Spencer, race leader. Why on earth are they going into the pits here? They haven't picked up damage or anything. Sailor in as well. I am not sure what's going on here. He doesn't have to make a second start, but he is doing. And somehow I think he's just about going to rejoin ahead of these guys. You can see him on the pit exit. King of Torque is going to be close, and King of Torque actually goes up into the lead of this race. So no idea what Ayrton Spencer was thinking with that. Now look, Nils also looking to challenge going up the hill. Perhaps he thought that it was close, or like had enough of a distance over the others in order to perhaps make the pit stop come out ahead and then try and get an even faster lap. But it seems to have been a very dreadful strategy call for Scuderia Diamante Nero. But down the inside they go of Nils. Nils having to do his best to stick with them, and Carbon also catching up. It's all happening at the moment. In fact, no, that's not Carbon, that's Sailor. That's the lap down Audi R8, who is probably going to be blue flagged when Carbon does eventually come up. But now that King has a car between him and Nils, that's going to certainly help his situation. King right where he needs to be actually, if he's going to keep this championship alive to the final race. Needs to be on the top step with Carbon, I believe 3rd or lower. I could be mistaken on that. I think that's what he said on Discord. As that's a very sliding Nils in the back of things going through final corner. It's going to allow Sailor to catch up, so Sailor will be wanting a bit of a scrap, I'd imagine, despite being a lap down, simply because he's been a fair bit lonely throughout this race. Meanwhile, there's one car that is very lonely at the moment. If you look at the track map, Wybear pretty much all by himself as he makes his way onto the start-finish line. The gap's starting to come up. Around a second does King have over Spencer. Again, not quite sure what Spencer was thinking strategy-wise here. It was an awful blunder to make if it was just to set a faster lap, because he's already got fastest lap and it didn't look like anyone else would be able to challenge for it. Well, of course, there is just the urge of the racing driver to just strive for the perfect lap. It seems to have gone the better of him here. So with 4 laps to go, 3 cars, I was about to say 4 because Sailor's a lap down, 3 cars still pretty much within contention of winning this race. And now look, Spanner on the back of King of Torque. He's going to try around the outside, is he? He's certainly had the pace over everyone so far. Sticks behind for now. Going to try and use the slipstream of the Mercedes to its advantage. And look at this. Look at this from the M6. Pulls up alongside. Will they manage to get it done around the outside? No, they're going to try a cutback. They can't quite get it to work. King will be fighting for all his life here as they make their way up towards turn 3. Carbon, you just about saw them in the background of the shot. Again, they're certainly not out of this yet, but they are a fair bit far back at the moment. Things can close up as they start scrapping though. Into the infield section they go, and Spanner's still all over the back of the Group Runners Motorsport Mercedes. You can look how much more confident Spanner is over the curbs, as King really having to go defensive. It's slowing him down so much. And round the outside goes Ayrton Spanner. There's a little bit of contact. I think he's ran off the road slightly. I think he's going to have to give King the position for that. And he spun, is he? No, he just seemed to lose it on exit. Couldn't quite keep it together. It was very bumpy on that tarmac on the outside. And now look, Nils down the inside as well. Nils up into second, but he's ran wide. Both of them run wide. Sailor's going to merge inside of Nils. What? Sailor's doing rallycross as well. I don't know what's going on at the moment. Up towards turn 2, I think. If that's what's going on, I have no idea what Sailor's doing at the moment. They're lagging themselves to pieces. Nils with a bit of oversteer kick on the exit. I think Carbon might have just about managed to get ahead of Sailor. Indeed, they have done so. So Sailor has disconnected right at the final stage of the race. Extremely unfortunate stuff for Sailor. It was running 6th anyway, but to disconnect so late on in the race, extremely unfortunate stuff for the Team Black driver, the Team Black Diamond driver. I can't speak. I'm tired. My apologies. Coming up with around 2 laps to go here at the Red Bull Ring. 1.1 seconds, and closing is the gap between King and Spanner. Will King be able to fend off the challenge? Find out after this commercial break. Have you had an accident at work that wasn't your fault? Well, who cares? Unless it is something serious, then of course people should care, but still. This isn't the time nor the place for that kind of stuff. 7/10, the old slipstream range gap at the moment, as King having to serve a bit of penalty in the braking zone. The gap comes down even more. They also see Carbon in the back. Now if Carbon manages to get up to 3rd, I can't remember if that means it still goes to the finale or whether he straight up wins it. But he's going to be doing his best to try and get up ahead of Nils as well. So 2 scraps with absolutely everything on the line at the moment for both King and Carbon. Making their way through the infield again. Solid lines. It seems the Mercedes understeering a little bit. Seems to just be a bit of a trailer car around this particular circuit. Things extremely close as they head up through the second to last corner. And it is going to be an absolutely nail-biting finish to this race with 1 lap to go here at the Red Bull Ring. It looks like King is going to have to go defensive to the inside as... No, he actually manages to slot up ahead. So, fair play to him for that. King just with a slight bit of an advantage now. But the BMW up the hill with the slipstream, you've got to think, surely it's going to have an advantage here. And down the inside, full on send from Ayrton Spener. Down the inside he goes. Looks like King might have been slightly forced off of the circuit. Down the inside they went though, and it looks like King is still up alongside actually. As they make their way down towards turn 3, is King gonna try and hang it round? Bit of contact again. Ooh, King very nearly clipped the gravel. Might have done actually, managed to save it. And Ayrton Spener back up into the lead of this race. King struggling with the understeer again. F's in chat for Sailor, of course. Ollie Polly, unfortunate to see you go, but it would seem that your A/B teammate has done a fantastic job of recovering after a bit of a strategy mistake. It is going to be Ayrton Spener winning here at Red Bull Ring. King of Torques finishes second. Nils rounds off the podium, but it is Dynamic Carbon who finally becomes Drivers' Champion. Congratulations to him. Wybert still making his way around the final sector. Still with a little bit of a penalty to serve, but nevertheless, he will come home to finish 5th and on the lead lap, around 44, so seconds down. Just running a little bit wide again. Will he serve the penalty before the line? He chooses not to. So Ayrton Spener, winner of the race. King of Torque couldn't quite do enough to hold on to that second place and take it to the finale. Congratulations to Ayrton Spener on a very dominant display and spicing it up at the end with a bit of a strategy mistake. Very spicy indeed replay being saved. Here are your final race results then. Ayrton Spener with a 1.1 second lead by the end of things over King of Torque, and Nilsman finishing 3rd. Dynamic Carbon managing to take 4th, which is what he needed, with King finishing 2nd to take the Drivers' Championship. So congratulations to them on that one. And of course Wybert finishing the race in 5th, the last of the finishers. Not 100% sure whether that's enough to secure Scuderia Nuke Shoddy the Teams Championship. It might well be. We'll have to get confirmation. And of course, as you can see, Carbon very, very ecstatic over the result here today. Hope you've all enjoyed the action here, especially towards the end of things. It really heated up, as it usually seems to do here in DRL. It's got a bit of a theme to it here. Themes that races seem to come together towards the end. Fantastic stuff. Spener was indeed trying to go for fastest lap, even though he already had fastest lap, but again, as I thought, it was just the urge, that racing driver's urge in him for the perfect lap. What was the fastest lap by the end of things? It was a 1:27.8. It wasn't even set in the dying stages, so of course, caught up in the battling, it certainly didn't help Ayrton Spener's chances of setting that, but it's a 1:27.878, which goes down as the fastest lap of this race. And Scuderia Nuke Shoddy have been announced as team champions. Congratulations to me. Congratulations to the drivers as well, Nils and Whitebear. Oh dear, that's going to get clipped or something, isn't it? Congratulations to me. Fantastic drive throughout the entire season by both of my lads there. I honestly couldn't have asked for more. Commitment at its absolute finest. We're going to see if we can get some interviews. First of all, probably with Ayrton Spener, race winner. And then we'll probably go on to Carbon and then we'll see if we can get Y-Bear, because I don't believe Nils has a mic. Oh, you're having a laugh. I think my game's just froze. Oh, great. Really